Hello, sunshines and sweaty pies, and welcome to the 8th instalment of the Chuffy Big House Show. Stick around because you're for the Chuffy seat. Although it's the 8th episode, and 8, the infinity sign, is Big House Chuffy's favourite number. Just a little statistic, a little fact there for you. It is also the second episode, the second instalment of the Chuffy Big Owl Miniature series. The other day it was bells. We looked at the old blender, the old bells. Going to do another blender today. No, what's today? Another blended. We're going to be looking at Glasgow's Chuffing Finest, Whyte and Mackay. Okay. Now, Whyte Mackay, I've wrote a couple of things down here. Whyte Mackay is distilled in Glasgow by the master blender Richard the Nose Patson. Now, I don't know if you've heard of this guy, Richard the Nose Patson. Master blender for Whyte Mackay and also Chuffing Dalmore. This guy knows what he's on with. And his nickname, have you heard his nickname there? Richard the Nose Patson. Now, what would you think? Now, if you've seen, I've observed this guy on videos, and he has got an absolutely bulbous, enormous chuffing chonk. Looks like a chuffing carbuncle on chuffing Shrek's ass all over his face. Massive nose. But that's not why it's called the nose. So what kind of skill has this guy got with his beak? Why, just not the sheer fact of him having a huge nose is the reason why his nickname is the Nose. It's because of his adept, unbelievable ability to smell whiskies. He can stick his beak in there. He'll tell you what it is, where it's from, probably what's in it. The man's a chuffing genius. But he's also got another little bits of advice for you. Check his videos out. He's a very, very funny guy, very witty, very charismatic. Richard, you probably don't watch my chuffing show, why would you? But if you do, I chuffing love you, all right? Just so you know that, Mr. Nose. Right, he's got a few bits of advice. One of them is, you get your glass, you get your bottle, you pour it in, not a bottle like this ain't going to work with a bottle like this, big bottle. Pour it in. First one, you swirl it around, you're shuffling through it on the floor. And his psychology, his philosophy behind this is he washes any impurities out of the glass so that you smell it better and that you taste it better. So I can understand that. But for me, on a chuffing pittance, if I'm doing that and I'm throwing that on the floor, 5 seconds later, I'm on my hands and knees, I'm chuffing slurping it up like a chuffing dog. I'm not laying laminate flooring of it. Bloody hell's bells. So that's one piece of advice, yes. He also has a piece of advice about smelling it and how you should address it. Because, you know, Big Al, left nostril, right nostril, nipple, shuffling the old, woo, all that kind of stuff would be a big no-no with the nose. A no-no with the nose. What he says you do is you pour your whiskey in, give it a little swirl like this. But don't agitate it too much, you know what I mean? Let it settle. And then what you do at first is you go, hello, how are you? Quite well, thank you very much. And then you shove your beak in like a flaming penguin, attacking a chuffing ice cap. And you have a good sniff and then eventually you taste it. So that's his advice. So that's Richard the Nose Patson, a little bit of information on that guy for you. Going back to the whiskey, it's triple distilled. Most whiskies are double distilled. This is triple distilled, which is what the Auchentoshan was as well. And the Auchentoshan, I think, is Glaswegian. Well, it's where the Glaswegians were the triple distillation. No, people say they're all rough and tough and chuffing hard and all this lot. And they're having, the whiskies are all chuffing smooth as a baby's ass. Bloody naughty. So, but it's a good thing. It is a smooth little drop. Triple distilled. What they do is they combine it with single malt whiskies. The finest single malt whiskies. And then they move it into sherry casks. And then they blend it with grain whiskies and then return it back to the cask. And then ultimately, obviously, you get your whiskey. So what we're going to do now without further ado, and it will be being blended. I don't know with Richard and how much say he has over stuff like this. It could, again, it could be coloured. It could be chill. There could be chill filtration on it. It doesn't say anything. I mean, you don't get no information on these chuffing small bottles I'm buying. But on the big one, I don't think it mentions anything about it. So it probably is coloured. It probably is chill filtrated, just so you know. Right, bloody cracker up and get into this glass here. Here we go. And Richard also suggests I'm not going to do it. Although I'm going to start trying it, but he reckons, I can't remember exactly what percentage he said, you should get a whiskey down to, I think, it take about 20%. No, take about 5% of the alcohol off with water. So this one, I think this is a 40. This is a 40%. What you should do with this is you should add just enough water, bring it down to 35. He says you'll smell more and you'll taste more. But I just drink them neat. It's just how I do it. I'm probably doing it chuffing wrong, like, but, you know, that's when you watch his programmes. I'm just giving you my amateur assessment here. Left nostril, right nostril, left nipple, right nipple, belly button. Here we bloody go. Right, shove me chuffing. Hello. How are you? Quite well. Thank you very much. Cheers, Richard. Right, let's have a good sniff now. I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to shove me chuffing face in. You know, for a blended. The bells, like, you know, if you watched the last episode with the bells, I was impressed with it. And I did think it was nice, and it was better than the last times I'd had it. This, just smell, I've not tasted it yet, but just smell-wise, it's in a completely different league. Let's have another sniff. I've smelled some more whiskies that don't smell as good as this. This smells good. Right, let's let it settle. It's light. It's not overwhelming. You can quite happily shove your face in there and you're not going to start chuffing coughing, or your eyes ain't going to start watering like you're sucking on a chuffing lemon. Dark fruits is what I'm getting. We were getting like kind of apples with the bells yesterday, but a massive alcohol hit. That paint stripper hit. But there were good smells on it, but this one, dark fruits. It's dry. It smells like it's going to be a dry number, like it's going to be dry in our mouth. It don't smell wreck juicy, but it's beautiful, beautiful smell. Not too sweet. Bit of vanilla. Right, let's get it a go around the old chuffing tonsillitis. Let's get it a go down it. Let's have a go. That's delicious. I'm not just saying that. It is dry, but again, like we've had with a couple in the past, my mouth is absolutely salivating. It's you can taste those kind of grains and the dark fruits, and it has that sherry hit, and you can definitely taste that. And you can, I could smell the vanilla, I can taste the vanilla and the spices and stuff. That's really lovely whiskey, that. I'd buy a full bottle of that in a chuffing heartbeat. And when I finish this bloody video, I'm going to nip it short. Forget this chuffing little one and what I said about being chuffing skin. I'm going to get this in a bottle of this bugger. Bloody dolly. Yeah, it's starting to develop. You really can smell those grains and that sherry in background. It's a very, very pleasant nosing experience. It's one of those ones where you wouldn't just pour it out and just sling it straight down. You would. Because people laugh at me sometimes when I'm onto a good whiskey like this. I keep sniffing it. It's part of the pleasure. It's like cooking bacon and coffee and stuff like that. It's one of the great smells in life. If you're into that kind of... Some people, you know, they shove their nose in and they nearly pass out. Or they start pulling... But beautiful. For me, one of the great smells of life. And that smells bloody gorgeous, that. Let's have another little sip. It's excellent. It's excellent. It's, if somebody poured me that and told me it was a malt whiskey, I don't think I'd be questioning them. I really don't. Like I say, I'm not an expert, but I would take it for what it was and I would enjoy it. That is a great, what I would say is, it would be a great way to get into kind of like your sherried whiskies. Like something like... one I've had in the past, and it makes me... Obviously, Dalmore. There's going to be a little similarity with Dalmore, I think, just because of Richard Maddison. So he's going to be bringing that. I don't know if he brings some of those elements. If there's Dalmore in it, there could be, I don't know. But he's got a certain style. It's like a film director. With James Cameron, you get a certain kind of film. With Ridley Scott, with Martin Scorsese, you get a certain kind of film. With Richard Maddison, you're going to get a certain kind, I would have thought, of whiskey. And this guy he's up there. He's a master. It's like the bloody Ridley Scott of whiskey, this guy, he's good. But yeah, it reminds me of like, it'd be a good way to get you into something like a Glendronach. Because Glendronach's beautiful. So, hey, I'm feeling good. I've got a day off today. So, before I get this chuffing review in, I'm going to enjoy rest of my whiskey in peace. And stick around. You're in for a bloody treat. Rest at Chuffing Show. Peace, sweetheart sunshines. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's like I say, that particular video that's just been on there with Lee Maddison. Now, when we first started doing these shows, you were putting on consistently original material. Now, I know for a fact that that Shuffling Donkey's years old. And just having it in black and white is no way of like kind of trying to hide this, that or the other. Your chuffing beard is not that brunette. And I don't think you've got that much chuffing hair. So, Lee Maddison, start putting on, again, original content. But I've got to say that I like that. That psychedelic bluesy type stuff, I enjoyed that. So, I think that will elevate this video experience. So, thank you for that. But start putting on some new material with your chuffing grey head on it and stop pretending like you're chuffing whatever age you were there, because that was chuffing at least bloody 10 years ago, that look at you. Jesus Christ. Right, we did one of these recently and we're going to do it again. A chuffing beer with Big Al. Now this one, it's, I think you say Guapo. It's not Crapo. Grappo IPA, double dry hopped micro, 3.4%. This one I think is Scottish. It's a Scottish one. So we've had the Scottish whiskey from Glasgow. Now we've got the old chuffing Guapo from Scotland. I don't exactly know where in Scotland it's from, but it's definitely Scottish. It says Guapo, good looking, great tasting. We have wrestled with as much flavour. We've wrestled as much flavour into this micro IPA as we possibly could. Tropically hoppy with juicy overtones and a crispy lemony chuffing finish. So let's get it out. And now there's a guy that I watch, because I like my camping videos, I like my wild camping videos. And I watch stuff like, you know, Blot Outdoor shows and Bushman and Blue. And I also watched, the first one I started off with was one, and I love you, man, MCM Chuffing Outdoors, bloody Liverpudlian. And he does this, he cracks the bottle open and he goes, drive by, he goes. And then he sups in, he lets you know what you think. Let's have a little sip, and I'm going to have a word with you about this down over while we're having this chuffing beer together. That's excellent. Very, very smooth. Sometimes what I worry about with IPAs and lagers and stuff like that are heavily carbonated is that they blow you up like a flaming hot air balloon, you know what I mean? You can't have too much of them. That is very, very... It's got some fizz to it, obviously. It's not a still drink, but it's not too carbonated. I could have a few of them. I could quite happily have a few of those, no problem. But yeah, I forgot what I was going to say. Just a little piece of advice. Now, when you get to my age, hopefully you're starting to accrue a little bit of wisdom. Now, I say a little bit of wisdom. It's not even 10 o'clock, and I've had a flaming Whyte and Mackay chuffing whiskey, and then I'm supping beer first thing in the morning. I wouldn't suggest anybody doing that, unless you're chuffing George Best. God bless his soul. But yeah, sometimes you formulate ideas, a little bit of wisdom that might be yours, or it might be a shared thing, or you might hear something directly off of somebody else. Now, this is not my idea, but I agree with it. I don't know if you're aware, and you're probably aware of Stephen King, who is probably the foremost, most famous writer of horror, who's still alive. You get people like H.P. Lovecraft and all these other kind of characters. D.N.R. Kunst, is it? And England, we had the late, great James Herbert. James Herbert was something fantastic. But Stephen King, his books, man, beautiful. Read them, check them out. And I like his adaptions, his television adaptions and stuff like this as well. The man's a legend. But the piece of advice that he gave, was right. He says, sometimes when you're young, like a teenager or a young man, you know, older people may say to you, oh, you're loud, you're noisy, you're chuffing brash, you're full of yourself. You should be. This is what Stephen King's saying. You should be. There's a difference between being larger than life and full and big and bold and brassy and being arrogant and being obnoxious and being narcissistic. There's a marked, massive difference between the two. And what Stephen King said, I think he phrased it approximately like this. Imagine yourself as a seamount. And if seamount's the wrong terminology, I'll explain a little bit more. Do you know those great big massive monolithical slabs that protrude out of the ocean? They're like skyscrapers. And all around them is ocean, almost like a natural lighthouse. Now, what he's saying is we're all like this. And life and situation and physicality and emotion and all these other things are like the wind and the rain and the snow and the sleet and the waves and the currents and the waters. and you're being bombarded from all directions all the time. Now, what happens to those sea mounts, to those sea cliffs? Is they get eroded. They get smaller, they get fragile, and ultimately, if they're not careful, all of them ultimately will fall. So what he's saying is, if you're a teenager, if you're a young... This is a message to young people, because I love young people. They are the future. And I'm not all washed up. I'm only 46. I'm not washed up. I've got a kid, I've got a wife, I've got a family. I've got plenty to live for, and I've got plenty of things I want to do. But this is a message to young people. Be big. Be bold. Be brassy. Be full of life. Be confident. And live your life to the full. Live your life to the max. Don't mean you have to be an arsehole. But life will chip away at you. It'll erode you and it'll weaken you over time. It's inevitable. It happens. Look at Muhammad Ali or somebody like that. It happens. If it can happen to him, it can happen to anybody. So if you start off like a mouse, like a small nub, you ain't going to last a distance. So what I'm saying is live your life with enthusiasm and with joy and with pleasure. You know what I mean? Because like we discussed in a previous episode, you might only get one. So really, really enjoy it. Another thing I'll just quickly say, if you've got a mundane job, you could be in a supermarket, factory, warehouse, you could be a bin man, you could be a taxi, whatever. These kind of things that some people look down the nose at these jobs. Don't be embarrassed, don't be ashamed. Just do the job well. It doesn't matter what you're doing. These politicians, they've got these highfalutin jobs, but in a lot of ways, you're better than they are because they get all this money, they've got all this responsibility, and they make crazy decisions, and they don't do the jobs well. Do your job well. And on one level, we're not talking about fine, not everything is money. On one level, you're better than they are because you're doing it right. Because I used to be in that kind of fix. I remember being my wife's a teacher. Now, we used to go to like weddings or this or that or all these functions, and we'd be sat round a table and people would be saying, you've never met them before. And they start saying, oh, I'm a solicitor and I'm a doctor and I'm a bloody scientist and I'm a this and I'm a that. IT administrator and they've got all these highfalutin jobs. They're all middle class and all. And then you get to me and I'm working in like factories or warehouses and stuff. And I used to be like, I'd do a bit. Just be ashamed. No. Don't be ashamed. Tell them. Oh, bloody factory worker. I met chuff in clogs. Don't be ashamed. So that's just a little bit of advice off the chuffing Big Al. I'm going to finish the rest of this in peace. Have a chuffing great day. Live your life. Enjoy your life to the chuffing max and be a chuffing... What you want to be is... If you're a dad, be a shining light to your kids. If you're a brother, be a good, loyal brother. If you're a wife or a husband, be a great wife or husband. Just do it well. Do it to the best you can. And enjoy life and enjoy yourself and love other people. See you later, sweet pies.